What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, of course, a couple quick things here. Shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a couple of different services. The first of which is a Bitcoin savings account where you can earn interest on your Bitcoin paid in Bitcoin. And the second is where you can use your Bitcoin as collateral to secure a Canadian or US dollar loan. For either of those services, you can click the link down below. And actually, if you opt to get a loan, they will credit your account with an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin. And secondly, if you're into Bitcoin, then of course privacy is important, and this is something I use on both my phone and my computer. NordVPN, essentially what it does is it hides your IP address, it encrypts your browsing data, and it has the added bonus of being able to unlock geo-blocked content. So if you want to check them out, there's also a link down below, and it gives you a deal where it ends up being only about $3 a month, so not bad at all. With that, let's dive into the news. All right, so very, very important. If you are running Lightning at all, then you need to make sure you are up to date. Remember that Lightning is still in beta. It is still very early, and there will be bugs to be found. It's only just over a year into basically public trials, people being able to use it very easily. So it was March 2018 when it came online and people were able to use it. And so there has been some sort of a vulnerability or vulnerabilities found in Lightning clients. It's not yet disclosed, so they're doing responsible disclosure. And so it will be disclosed exactly what the details are as of September 27th. So people have up until that date to update their Lightning clients. So for instance, myself, my Casa node, the nice thing about it is it informs me if there is an update, and then I can decide whether or not I would like to update. Well, if you do have a Casa node and you see that notification next time you log into your dashboard, then yes, do indeed update. If you updated already at any point within the last month, you should be fine. But again, if you see that update notification, best to do it now. And why? Because apparently these vulnerabilities could result in lack of funds if exploited. And so the reason that they don't explain the details of a vulnerability like this, as with most open source software, is so that people have time to update to the fix, so that before it becomes public, people don't start exploiting it everywhere. So anyways, basically anything before releases with C Lightning, anything earlier than 0.7.1, with LND, anything earlier than 0.7, and with Eclair, anything earlier than 0.3, you would be vulnerable to these potential attack vectors. So be vigilant and be sure to update your machines. So the statements here, so one is by Rusty Russell, and he said, security issues have been found in various Lightning projects, which could cause loss of funds. Full details will be released in 4 weeks on September 27th. Please upgrade well before then. And Adam Back, CEO and co-founder of Blockstream, had this to say: it is good practice for security critical products and the Bitcoin ecosystem norm to use responsible disclosure where details are released to security reporting process of the product, and for the full details to be released publicly after people had reasonable notice to upgrade to the fixed version. So again, if you're running Lightning, if you have a node and you see that update notification, be sure to go ahead and do that so that you are no longer vulnerable to these sorts of issues. Okay, let's move on. Now, the CME, we've been talking recently about Bitcoin futures, namely Backed is going to be launching this September, but the CME is a different type. So Backed is physically settled in that there's a contract where you speculate on the future price of Bitcoin, and at the end of that contract, you receive the physical Bitcoin or the the actual Bitcoin. Whereas the CME, it's the same kind of deal. People can speculate on the future price of Bitcoin, but at the end of the day, when that contract is settled, well, it gets settled in the cash value of the contract versus actual Bitcoin. However, just an interesting little, I guess, another little tick on the what would we say? This would be an achievement, maybe. Anyways, they have broken records for the futures trading. They're averaging about $370 million per day. So pretty impressive. So essentially what they're saying here is that this is since the release this time last year, it's a 132% increase in volume with these futures contracts. So pretty impressive overall. They're also, nice little tidbit here is 36% of US investors would consider investing in Bitcoin. So that's a large chunk of the US population that has not yet gotten exposure that are open to getting exposure. So again, I think people are just starting to, with that name recognition, and they've seen it around a lot and it's in the news more and more, people are starting to open up to the idea. Even if they haven't yet dove in, they're starting to be okay with the idea. And with any new technology, that's kind of the same gradual process where people see it enough and they start to be comfortable with it. And it's the same thing when you think of, that's kind of how advertising works as well. As you see that brand recognition, as you notice a logo or you notice a product and you see other people using it and it's on TV, over time that recognition becomes comfort and then you feel free to dabble. So yeah, interesting to see new benchmarks being broken. Up next, so there was a survey of super rich Indians, so high net worth individuals in India, and so they were asked if they were likely to invest in cryptocurrencies, and then they were to specify which ones they would consider, if they had a preference, and so on and so forth. So when they were surveyed on, this was reported just today, but 1/10 of wealthy Indians plan to invest in cryptocurrency in some way, shape, or form. So they said that they intend to over the next 3 years, this 10%. Now they also, when we got into the granular, well, what would you invest in? If they had a preference, now many didn't, but those that did have a preference, 30% stated a preference to invest in Bitcoin, whereas Ether came in at 9% and XRP came in at 7%. But yeah, I would say that these numbers aren't really surprising. So the people that just don't know, they just don't know. But as we were talking about in the previous story, it's that brand recognition. When people hear Bitcoin, most people don't even know what Ethereum is or barely recognize the name. And beyond that, probably don't know about much else. So again, not super surprising numbers, but kind of cool to know that high net worth individuals in India, that 1 in 10 said that they're interested in investing in cryptocurrency over the next 3 years. That's actually kind of a surprising number to me, to tell you the truth. Okay, moving on. This one actually kind of hits close to home. So there's some people are targeting Canadian Bitcoin ATM users with another scam. So we've seen lots of other types of scams on these ATMs. Typically, it's they're getting people to use them that may not even understand they're using a Bitcoin ATM. So we've seen instances of this with things like the CRA scam, the Canada Revenue Agency scam, where they call somebody who's particularly vulnerable, maybe somebody who doesn't speak good English, who's new to Canada, maybe an elderly person that doesn't quite understand the technology, and they say you owe back taxes, and you're going to go to jail if you don't pay them as quick as possible. And the quickest way to do it is to go to this machine, scan this code, and put in cash. And they don't even refer to Bitcoin when they're doing this. They just say, go to the machine, do this. And so people don't realize what they're doing, and they lose a lot of money very quickly, because it's the equivalent of going to a precious metals dealer and buying a bunch of gold and then handing it away to a person on the street. You can't really go back to the precious metals dealer and say, can I have my money back? Because you bought goods and then you lost them or gave them away or had them stolen. So, yeah, that's essentially the types of scams we've been seeing before. This one is actually targeting people that are indeed trying to buy Bitcoin. Or it could, in a way, target the scammers that are trying to scam other people as well. I guess anybody using the ATM that falls for this, the money is not going to go where intended. And so what is it? It is this sign. Now, I know this might be hard to read, but essentially it says that the machine is out of order and that you need to do something special in order to utilize it. And so what they tell you to do, they have a little QR code in the bottom right-hand corner that you can't quite see here. And they say what you're going to do is you're going to basically go through the steps like you want to buy Bitcoin, but because the scanner isn't working, you need to take a picture of the QR code at the bottom of this piece of paper, and when it says receiving address and asks you to scan it, you scan the picture that you've taken. So what they've done is they've provided their own address so that anybody pumping money into the machine that falls for this will scan their address and send the Bitcoin to the scammer instead of to themselves. And I mean, part of me looks at this and says, the people that are going to be hurt here are one, the people that are already being scammed by things like that CRA scam. Well, I mean, they're still going to get scammed, but the scammer that was trying to scam them is also getting scammed for the Bitcoin. So in that instance, it's really unfortunate for the original person that's being hurt, but for the scammer that's already scamming them, it's like scamception. There's levels upon levels of scams here. But then the other people will be people that are brand new to Bitcoin, which is the most unfortunate thing too. People brand new to Bitcoin that are excited to try it out for the first time. They might see this and might not understand how wallets work and how transactions are irreversible, and do this and find out that they've lost their money. Again, super unfortunate all around, other than the scammers getting scammed. But yeah, and the interesting thing here too is if you look in the top of the screen here on the piece of paper, I've actually worked for two of the companies being targeted here. I've worked at BitNational, and I also did some work clearing ATMs for Bitcoin Solutions, both Alberta companies here. So yeah, I don't know what to say about this. It's really crappy. And what can you do? You can go around and kind of take a peek and try and tear these signs down. The nice thing about this is it's super ballsy on the part of the people that are doing it, because I think they're going to get caught, because they have to physically go to the machines and post up these scammy pieces of paper. So hopefully they get pinched, but I guess we'll see. Anyways, just a quick little update. Yesterday I was talking about how I was working on my Raspberry Pi and trying to run some stuff with Samurai Wallet and everything. Oh my God. Like I started trying to do some stuff. I'm not super familiar with Linux. It's all very new to me. Most of my stuff I usually run on my Mac. And then I've had Windows machines before, but I haven't really actually played with Linux before, and I definitely have not played with the command line. So I'm experimenting and learning, but in trying to do just a few basic things, I very quickly realized that I had to go way back and just start from basics. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of sorting through like basic command line code just to get things to do anything. Because, even installing a program, it's not like double click the program. It's like, no, go into the command prompt and tell it what to do and where to install and everything. And it's very eye-opening. But from what I've told, everybody's been very supportive and have said, listen, it's going to be a pain in the ass for a little bit, but once you grasp it and you start to understand and it becomes second nature, you'll wonder how you ever did without. And I'm looking forward to that. don't have like a ton of time all the time to dedicate to this, but I do expect to dedicate some time to it a little bit every day, maybe just learn a few new things. But I did get the command line of Samurai, the Whirlpool running on the actual Raspberry Pi. Now what I need to do is, because they don't have like the actual, and I'm sorry if this is getting dense, but they don't have the actual graphical interface available on a Raspberry Pi because it's a little bit too intensive, I believe. So I have to have that program on my Mac, and then that will reference my Raspberry Pi. So my Raspberry Pi will essentially just be like a dedicated box at home that can run CoinJoin in the background remotely from anywhere that's connected to my phone, which is running Samurai Wallet. So yeah, it's a lot. I'm learning, I'm trying, and hopefully I come out at the end of this with a little bit more knowledge. And so I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. If you have any tips or tricks in regards to Linux or good resources where I could start learning, keep in mind, I need this an ELI 5. I explain it like I'm 5 kind of situation here. So I need to start basic. But anyways, I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you had a great week. If you're new here, hit like, subscribe, and share. Of course, always share. I love to get more eyeballs on this every day. And I've been noticing an uptick, so thank those of you that have been sharing. I really do appreciate that. Secondly, if you want to help the show in another way, you can hit up either of the sponsors, Ledn or Nord. Those are down below. And if you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Lightning Network tip at my tippin.me page. And with that, I am out. Have a great weekend, everyone. And I will see you after the weekend. Monday's a holiday, so I'll see you after the long weekend for your daily session.